Marcus Chen wiped the sweat from his forehead as he finished loading the last crate of medical supplies into his cargo ship. The Wanderer, 3 months running humanitarian aid between the outer colonies, had worn him down. But someone had to do it. The Galactic Council's bureaucracy moved too slowly when people were dying. His ship wasn't much to look at, a beat-up freighter he'd bought with his military pension. The hull showed scorch marks from pirates and asteroid impacts, but the engines ran clean, and the life support systems never failed. That's all that mattered on the frontier. The comm system crackled to life. Incoming transmission from Kepler Station, announced his ship's AI in its mechanical voice. "Put it through," Marcus said, settling into the pilot's seat. Station Commander Riley's face appeared on the screen, her expression grim. "Marcus, we've got a problem. Long-range sensors picked up a distress beacon about 4 hours out from your current position. It's coming from the Vega Nebula." Marcus frowned. The Vega Nebula was dangerous. Territory-dense gas clouds that interfered with navigation, unstable gravitational fields, and rumors of something worse lurking in the depths. "What kind of ship?" "That's just it. The beacon isn't from any known human vessel. The signal pattern is completely alien." "Could be a trap," Marcus muttered. "Pirates sometimes used fake distress signals to lure cargo ships into ambushes." "Maybe. But Marcus, the signal is weak and getting weaker. If someone's really in trouble out there..." Riley's voice trailed off. Marcus closed his eyes and rubbed his temples. His last shore leave was 6 months overdue, and he was running low on supplies. The smart thing would be to ignore the signal and continue his scheduled supply run to the mining colonies. But he'd never been accused of being smart. "Send me the coordinates," he said. "Marcus, you don't have to send them." 20 minutes later, the Wanderer jumped to hyperspace, heading toward the unknown. The Vega Nebula looked like a massive bruise against the stars. Purple and crimson gases swirled in chaotic patterns, occasionally lit by flashes of energy from within. Marcus had been through dangerous space before, but something about this place made his skin crawl. His instruments went haywire the moment he entered the nebula's outer edge. Navigation became guesswork, and communications with the outside galaxy cut to static. The distress beacon was the only signal getting through, growing stronger as he followed it deeper into the gas clouds. After 2 hours of careful flying, his proximity alarm started screaming. Through the murky gases, he spotted the source of the beacon, a ship unlike anything he'd ever seen. The vessel looked organic rather than manufactured. Its hull curved and flowed like it had grown, instead of being built. Bioluminescent patterns pulsed along its surface in slowly fading rhythms. Parts of the ship appeared to be dying, with dark patches spreading across what had once been vibrant colors. "What the hell?" Marcus whispered. His scanners detected massive hull breaches and failing life support. Whatever this ship was, it was dying fast. The distress beacon pulsed weakly from a section that still showed signs of life. Marcus brought the Wanderer alongside the alien vessel and extended his docking tube. His hands shook slightly as he ran through the connection procedures. First contact with an alien species, this should involve diplomats and scientists, not a burned-out cargo hauler. The docking tube sealed with a soft hiss. Marcus grabbed his emergency kit and a portable atmosphere generator, then hesitated at the airlock. What if the aliens were hostile? What if they carried diseases? What if this was all an elaborate trap? The distress beacon pulsed again, weaker than before. Marcus cycled through the airlock. The alien ship's corridor was like walking through the intestines of some massive creature. The walls were smooth and warm to the touch, with a texture that reminded him of skin. Bioluminescent strips provided dim light, though many had gone dark. The air was thick and humid, with an odd metallic taste. Following the beacon's signal, Marcus made his way deeper into the ship. The corridors branched and curved in patterns that hurt his head to follow. Several times he passed what looked like crew quarters, but saw no signs of life, just empty chambers filled with strange furniture that seemed grown rather than built. The beacon led him to what appeared to be the ship's central chamber. Here the damage was most severe. Huge tears in the hull had been sealed with some kind of organic membrane. But it was failing. Atmosphere leaked out in thin streams, and the temperature was dropping fast. That's when he saw her. She couldn't have been more than a child by human standards, though her anatomy was clearly alien. Her skin was pale blue with darker markings that shifted like shadows. 4 arms ended in delicate hands with too many fingers. Her head was larger than a human child's, with huge black eyes that took up most of her face. She was dying. The child lay in what might have been a hibernation pod, though it looked more like a cocoon. The pod's organic systems were failing, its bioluminescent patterns dim and irregular. Her breathing was shallow and rapid, and her skin had taken on a grayish tinge. Marcus knelt beside the pod and ran his medical scanner over her. The readings were confusing. Her biology was so different from human that his equipment could barely make sense of it. But some things were universal. Her body temperature was too low, her heart rate too fast, and she was severely dehydrated. "Hey there," he said softly, though he doubted she could understand him. "It's going to be okay." The child's eyes fluttered open at the sound of his voice. They were completely black, with no visible pupils or iris. She looked at him with an expression that seemed both frightened and hopeful. Marcus activated his portable atmosphere generator, filling the chamber with breathable air and raising the temperature. Then, he carefully lifted the child from her dying pod. She was lighter than he'd expected, her bones feeling hollow like a bird's. Getting her back to his ship proved challenging. The alien corridors seemed to shift when he wasn't looking directly at them, and twice he had to backtrack when passages he remembered were no longer there. The child remained conscious but weak, occasionally making soft sounds that might have been words in her language. Once aboard the Wanderer, Marcus faced his next challenge. How do you care for an alien child when you don't know anything about alien biology? He set her up in his medical bay, using blankets and heating pads to keep her warm. His food synthesizer was useless, designed for human digestive systems, but he had emergency rations, water, and basic nutrients that might work. The child watched him with those enormous black eyes as he worked. When he offered her water, she drank eagerly. Basic nutrients from his medical kit seemed to help her skin color improved slightly, and her breathing became less labored. Over the next several hours, Marcus did everything he could to keep her alive. He monitored her vital signs, kept her warm, and tried to communicate. She seemed to understand that he was trying to help, though they shared no common language. Gradually, she began to recover. The grayish tinge left her skin, and the shadow-like markings became more defined. She even attempted to sit up, though Marcus gently encouraged her to rest. "We need to get you home," he said, showing her a star chart on his tablet. "Where are you from?" The child looked at the display with interest, then reached out with one of her 4 hands. Her touch was warm, and Marcus felt a slight tingling sensation. Suddenly, images flashed through his mind, not his own memories, but hers. He saw a massive ship, dwarfing anything humans had ever built. It moved through space like a living thing, its surface covered in cities that pulsed with bioluminescent light. The child's people, tall, elegant beings with the same 4 arms and shadow markings, moved through gardens that grew in zero gravity. But then came darker images. Fire and destruction. Ships that looked like mechanical insects swarming around the living vessel. Her people fleeing in smaller ships as their great vessel burned. The child being placed in the hibernation pod as her ship tried to escape. The connection broke, leaving Marcus gasping. The child looked at him with an expression that might have been apology. "Your ship was attacked," Marcus said. "You're a refugee." She made a soft sound that he took for agreement. Over the next few days, Marcus nursed the child back to health. He shared his food and water, gave her clean clothes that were too big for her small frame, and taught her basic English words. She was a quick learner, picking up simple phrases within hours. In return, she taught him her name, or at least something close to it. The sounds didn't translate well to human speech, so Marcus settled on calling her Luna because of her pale blue skin. Luna proved to be curious about everything. She examined his equipment with intense interest, her 4 hands allowing her to manipulate multiple controls simultaneously. She was particularly fascinated by his star charts, studying them for hours and occasionally pointing to distant sectors. "Is that where your people went?" Marcus asked one day, following her gesture to a region marked as unexplored space. Luna's expression became sad, and she shook her head. Then she pointed to herself and made a gesture that clearly meant, alone. Marcus felt his heart break a little. This child had lost everything, her family, her people, her entire way of life. She was alone in a galaxy that probably saw her as a curiosity or a threat. "You're not alone," he said firmly. "You've got me." For the first time since he'd found her, Luna smiled. It was a beautiful expression. Despite her alien features, the shadow markings on her skin brightened, and her black eyes seemed to sparkle. Marcus had intended to take Luna to the nearest human station and turn her over to the authorities. The Galactic Council had protocols for first contact situations. Scientists would want to study her, diplomats would want to establish relations with her people, and military strategists would want to assess any potential threats. But as the days passed, Marcus found himself reluctant to hand her over. Luna had already suffered enough trauma. The thought of subjecting her to endless tests and interrogations made him sick. Besides, she was just a child. She needed stability, care, and time to heal. The bureaucrats could wait, so Marcus made a decision that would change both their lives. Instead of heading for the nearest station, he altered course for the frontier colonies. There were plenty of places out there where questions weren't asked, where a human with an unusual companion could disappear into the vast expanse of space. Luna seemed to understand what he was doing, and her gratitude was obvious. She began calling him Protector Marcus in her halting English, a title that made him feel both proud and terrified. They settled into a routine. Marcus continued his supply runs to isolated colonies. Now with Luna as his companion, she proved remarkably helpful, her alien perspective allowing her to spot problems and solutions that Marcus missed. Her 4 arms and superior reflexes made her excellent at ship maintenance tasks. The colonists they visited were surprisingly accepting. Frontier folk were used to oddities, and Luna's obvious youth and vulnerability triggered protective instincts rather than fear. She became something of a mascot at several stations, where rough miners and farmers would compete to bring her treats and small gifts. For 3 months, they lived this way. Marcus had never been happier. Luna filled a void in his life he hadn't even realized existed. Watching her learn and grow, seeing her smile return, gave his existence a purpose beyond simple survival. But their peaceful existence couldn't last forever. Marcus should have realized that Luna's people might come looking for her. He should have known that a child from an advanced alien civilization wouldn't simply be abandoned. He should have prepared for the day when his choice to hide her would have consequences. That day came during a routine supply run to mining station Omega-7. Marcus was in the station's cantina, negotiating prices for medical supplies with the colony administrator. Luna sat beside him, sketching alien flowers in a notebook he'd bought her. She'd become fascinated with earth plants, and was trying to remember what the gardens of her people had looked like. The first sign of trouble was the sudden silence. Conversations died mid-sentence, as every human in the cantina turned to stare at the entrance. Marcus looked up from his tablet to see what had caught their attention. Standing in the doorway was the most beautiful and terrifying being he'd ever encountered. She was clearly of Luna's species, but where Luna was small and delicate, this being radiated power and danger. Nearly 8 feet tall, she wore what appeared to be living armor that shifted and flowed like liquid metal. Her 4 arms ended in hands that could probably crush steel, and her shadow markings pulsed with an inner light that seemed almost hypnotic. But it was her eyes that truly frightened Marcus. They held the cold intelligence of a predator and the burning fury of a mother whose child had been threatened. Luna looked up from her drawing, saw the newcomer, and went rigid with shock. Then she made a sound Marcus had never heard before, a complex trill that seemed to contain multiple emotions at once. The tall alien's gaze swept the cantina until it found Luna. Her expression shifted from deadly calm to something that might have been relief, followed immediately by renewed fury as she took in Luna's human clothes and the setting. She spoke, and though Marcus couldn't understand the words, the meaning was clear enough. She was asking what had been done to her child. Luna responded in their shared language, speaking rapidly and gesturing toward Marcus. The tall alien's attention fixed on him like a targeting laser. "Oh," Marcus whispered, finally understanding. "You're her mother." The alien Luna's mother stepped into the cantina. Every human present seemed to shrink back as she approached. Her armor made no sound as she moved, and Marcus noticed that the metal floor actually dented slightly under her feet. She stopped 3 feet from their table and spoke again. This time, Marcus's universal translator caught enough to provide a rough interpretation. "Human. You will explain why you have stolen my daughter." Marcus slowly stood, keeping his hands visible. Every instinct screamed at him to run. But Luna was between him and the alien. He wouldn't abandon her, not even to save his own life. "I didn't steal her," Marcus said carefully. "I rescued her. Her ship was dying in the Vega Nebula. She would have died if I hadn't." The alien cut him off with a gesture that made the air itself seem to vibrate. When she spoke again, her voice held harmonics that resonated in Marcus's bones. "You took her from her people. You hid her. You prevented her return. This is theft." Luna suddenly stood on her chair and began speaking rapidly in her own language. She gestured emphatically toward Marcus, then toward herself, then seemed to be describing their time together. Her mother's expression gradually shifted from fury to confusion to something that might have been understanding. When Luna finished, her mother was silent for a long moment. Then she fixed Marcus with a stare that seemed to see straight through him. "My daughter says you protected her, that you fed her when she was starving, that you clothed her and gave her shelter and asked for nothing in return." Marcus nodded. "She's just a child. She needed help. She also says you taught her to trust humans, that you showed her kindness when you could have handed her over to your authorities for study." Yes, I suppose I did." The alien mother stepped closer, and Marcus could feel the heat radiating from her living armor. When she spoke again, her voice was quieter but somehow more menacing. "Do you understand what you have done, human? My daughter is the last surviving heir of the Etherian collective. Her bloodline carries the genetic patterns of 6 extinct worlds. She is literally irreplaceable." Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. He'd known Luna was special, but this, "I didn't know. And yet you risked everything to protect her. Why?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Every human in the cantina was watching, waiting to see how this would end. Marcus could feel their fear, but also their curiosity. What would drive a man to protect an alien child at the cost of his own life? Marcus looked down at Luna, who was watching him with those enormous black eyes. In them, he saw trust, affection, and something that transcended species, the bond between a guardian and his ward. "Because she needed me," Marcus said simply. "Because she was alone, and scared, and hurt, and I was the only one there who could help. Because that's what you do for family." Luna made a soft sound and reached up to take his hand. Her touch was warm and familiar, grounding him in the face of her mother's scrutiny. The alien mother stared at their joined hands for a long moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, she knelt down to Luna's level and spoke gently in their shared language. Luna responded, and they had a brief conversation that seemed to involve a lot of pointing at Marcus. Finally, Luna's mother stood and faced Marcus again. This time, her expression was unreadable. "My daughter has made a request," she said. "She wishes me to spare your life." Thank you. Do not thank me yet, human. Luna has also asked me to allow you to continue as her guardian." Marcus blinked in surprise. "What? My people are few now, scattered across the galaxy and hiding. Luna is safest where our enemies cannot find her. You have proven that you will protect her, even at great personal cost. Perhaps this arrangement can continue. You want me to keep taking care of her? I want my daughter to survive. If that means trusting her to a human who feeds starving children." She paused, and Marcus could have sworn he saw the hint of a smile. "Then so be it." Luna squeaked with joy and threw her forearms around Marcus's waist. Over her head, he met her mother's gaze and saw something there that hadn't been present before: a grudging respect. "There are conditions," the alien continued. "You will not be alone in this responsibility. My people have ways of watching from a distance. And should Luna ever be in true danger, we will know. Understood. Also, you will teach her about human ways, but you will not let her forget her own heritage. She is Etherian, heir to a great civilization. That identity must be preserved. Of course, the alien mother nodded slowly. Then she did something that shocked everyone present. She bowed slightly to Marcus. You have my gratitude, Protector Marcus. Few beings would risk their lives for a child not of their own species. You honor both our peoples with your actions. As quickly as she had arrived, Luna's mother prepared to leave. She said goodbye to Luna in their own language, the words clearly full of love and promise. Then she looked at Marcus one final time. Remember, human. She is precious beyond measure. Guard her well. I will. With that, she was gone, leaving behind only the faint scent of ozone and the memory of her overwhelming presence. The cantina erupted in excited chatter as soon as she left. Everyone wanted to know what had happened, who the alien was, and what it all meant. Marcus ignored them all, focusing instead on Luna, who was practically vibrating with excitement. Protector Marcus, she said in her careful English. Mother says I can stay with you. I heard, Marcus said, still somewhat in shock. Are you happy about that? Very happy. You are good guardian. You teach me human things, and I teach you Etherian things. We are family now. Yes? Marcus felt a warmth spread through his chest that had nothing to do with the cantina's heating system. Yes, he said. We're family. As they left the station and returned to the Wanderer, Marcus couldn't help but reflect on how much his life had changed. 3 months ago, he'd been a lonely cargo hauler with nothing but his ship and his memories. Now he was the guardian of an alien princess, with the blessing of her terrifyingly powerful mother and the promise of adventures yet to come. It wasn't the life he'd planned, but it was the life he'd chosen. And as Luna settled into her favorite spot in the co-pilot's chair, chattering excitedly about showing him more of her people's history, Marcus realized he wouldn't trade it for anything. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, full of wonders and terrors beyond imagination. But they would face it together, the burned-out cargo hauler and the lost alien child, who had become so much more than either of them ever expected. As the Wanderer jumped to hyperspace, heading toward their next adventure, Marcus smiled. He had found his purpose at last, and somewhere in the depths of space, an alien mother watched over them both, ready to unleash the full fury of her people's power on anyone who threatened her daughter's new family. 6 months had passed since Luna's mother had given Marcus permission to continue as her guardian. Life aboard the Wanderer had settled into a comfortable routine. Though comfortable was perhaps the wrong word when your ward was an alien princess, whose people commanded technology that could reshape stars. Marcus had learned much about Luna's heritage during those months. The Etherian Collective had once been the most advanced civilization in the galaxy, their bioships capable of traveling between dimensions, and their cities floating in the void between stars. They had been explorers and teachers, sharing knowledge with younger species and maintaining peace across dozens of star systems. Then came the Devourers. Marcus still got chills when Luna spoke of them. The Devourers were an ancient machine intelligence that consumed entire worlds, breaking them down into raw materials to build more of themselves. They had emerged from the galaxy's edge without warning, sweeping through Etherian space like a plague of metal and death. The war had lasted 3 years. Despite their advanced technology, the Etherians were peaceful by nature. They had weapons, but they were defensive tools designed to protect rather than destroy. The Devourers, on the other hand, existed only to consume and replicate. One by one, the great Etherian worlds fell. The survivors scattered to the cosmic winds, their bioships carrying small populations to hidden refuges throughout the galaxy. Luna's ship had been one of the last to escape the destruction of the capital world, carrying her and a handful of her people's greatest scientists. They hadn't made it far. Luna had shared these memories with Marcus gradually, her young mind still processing the trauma of losing everything she'd ever known. Marcus did his best to comfort her while learning about the magnitude of what they faced. If the Devourers ever found Luna, they wouldn't just kill her, they would capture her and use her genetic patterns to hunt down the remaining Etherian survivors. It made every supply run feel like a potential trap. Today they were approaching New Shanghai Station, a massive trading hub built around the remains of an ancient asteroid. The station served millions of beings from dozens of species, making it both the perfect place to blend in and the most dangerous location they could visit. Sensors are picking up increased security patrols, Luna observed from her position at the secondary console. Over the months, she had become an expert at reading human technology, her 4 arms allowing her to monitor multiple systems simultaneously. Marcus frowned as he reviewed the scanner data. That's a lot of firepower for routine patrols. Something's got them spooked. Luna's shadow markings flickered a sign that she was accessing her species' equivalent of intuition. I sense wrongness. The patterns of energy from the station feel disturbed. Before Marcus could ask what she meant, his communication system came alive with chatter from the station's traffic control. All incoming vessels, be advised that New Shanghai Station is operating under elevated security protocols. Prepare for extended boarding procedures and biological scans. Any ship refusing inspection will be turned away immediately. Marcus exchanged glances with Luna. Enhanced biological scans would easily detect her alien nature. Despite the holographic disguise they'd purchased on the black market, the device could make her appear human to casual observation, but wouldn't fool sophisticated sensors. We should leave, Luna said quietly. Marcus was about to agree when another transmission came through. This one was on an encrypted channel that very few people knew about. Marcus Chen. This is Commander Sarah Reeves, Human Colonial Defense. I need to speak with you immediately. It's about your ward. Ward. Marcus felt ice form in his stomach. Commander Reeves was his former commanding officer, a woman he respected but hadn't spoken to in over a year. If she was here and knew about Luna, then things were about to get very complicated. Luna, can you mask our ship's signature? He asked. Already doing it, she replied, her fingers dancing across the bio interface they'd installed to let her interact directly with the ship's systems. We appear to be the cargo vessel Lucky Strike out of Kepler Station. Marcus opened a response channel to Commander Reeves. Sarah, it's been a while. What brings colonial defense to a civilian trading station? Cut the act, Marcus. We know you have the Etherian child aboard your ship. Dock at Bay 94, it's been cleared and secured. Come alone. The channel closed before Marcus could respond. Luna's skin had gone pale, her shadow markings almost invisible. They know about me. It's okay, Marcus said, though he wasn't sure he believed it himself. Sarah's a good person. If she wanted to hurt you, she would have sent a boarding party instead of asking for a meeting. What if it's a trap? Marcus considered their options. They could run, but colonial defense ships were fast and well armed. They could fight, but the Wanderer wasn't a warship. Or they could trust that his former commanding officer was still the honorable woman he remembered. Sometimes you have to trust people, Marcus said finally. But that doesn't mean we go in unprepared. Can you establish a connection with your people? Luna nodded and placed her hands on the bio interface. Her shadow markings began to glow as she sent out a psychic signal that would travel faster than light to wherever her mother's ship was hiding. If things went wrong, help would come eventually. Bay 94 was in the station's restricted section, accessible only to military and government vessels. As the Wanderer settled into the docking clamps, Marcus could see armed guards positioned around the bay. They were trying to look casual, but their positions were clearly defensive. Stay here, Marcus told Luna. If I'm not back in an hour, take the ship and run. I won't leave you. Luna, if something happens to me, your mother will blame herself for trusting a human with your safety. Don't make her carry that burden. Oh, Luna's expression showed that she understood, but she clearly didn't like it. Be careful, Protector Marcus. Humans are not as fragile as they appear, but you are still more breakable than Etherian armor. Marcus smiled despite his nervousness. I'll try not to get broken. The docking tube connected with a solid thunk, and Marcus made his way to the station. The guards nodded respectfully as he passed. They knew him from his military service, though they seemed confused about why he was here. Bay 94's control room had been converted into a temporary meeting space. Commander Reeves stood with her back to the observation window, studying a holographic display of the galaxy. She was older than Marcus remembered, her dark hair now streaked with gray, but she still carried herself with the quiet confidence that had made her legendary in the Colonial Defense Force. "Hello, Marcus," she said without turning around. "You look good. Civilian life agrees with you, Sarah. I'd say it's good to see you. But given the circumstances—" "Yes, the circumstances." She finally turned to face him, and Marcus was surprised to see that she looked tired, bone-deep, exhausted, in a way he'd never seen before. "Tell me about the child. What do you want to know? Everything. How you found her. Why you've been hiding her. And whether you have any idea what you've gotten yourself into." Marcus chose his words carefully. "I found her dying on a derelict ship in the Vega Nebula. She was just a child in need of help. I helped her. And then her people contacted you." "It wasn't a question." Marcus nodded. "Her mother, specifically. 8 feet tall. Living armor. Presence that makes grown Marines wet themselves in terror." "You've met her?" Commander Reeves laughed bitterly. "Met her? Marcus, she appeared in my office 3 days ago, walked through about a dozen layers of security like they weren't there, and calmly informed me that if anything happened to her daughter or the human protecting her, she would personally dismantle the Colonial Defense Force, one ship at a time." Marcus felt a chill. Luna's mother was protective, but he hadn't realized she was monitoring the situation that closely. "Then why are we here?" he asked. "If she's threatened you." "Because she also offered to help us." Commander Reeves activated the holographic display, showing a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red markers indicated recent attacks on human colonies. "Marcus, we're at war. We just didn't know it until 3 weeks ago." The display zoomed in on the outer rim, where a dozen colonies had gone dark in rapid succession. The attack pattern was methodical, efficient, and terrifyingly familiar from Luna's memories. "The Devourers," Marcus whispered. "So you do know about them. Good, that saves time." Reeves manipulated the display to show the estimated progression of the attacks. "They're heading toward the core worlds, consuming everything in their path. Our weapons barely scratch their ships, and they adapt to our tactics faster than we can develop new ones." "How many people have we lost?" 17 colonies, nearly 2 million civilians." Reeves' voice was steady, but Marcus could see the weight of those deaths in her eyes. "The Etherian offered to share their knowledge of Devourer tactics, but only if we guarantee the safety of the child." Marcus stared at the display, trying to process what he was hearing. Luna's people were offering to help humanity fight an enemy that had destroyed their own civilization, but they wanted assurances about her safety first. What kind of assurances? Full protection, a military escort, secure facilities on Earth itself. "No." The word came out before Marcus could stop it. "Marcus, no. Luna's not a bargaining chip. She's not a weapon to be locked away in some government facility. She's a child who's already lost everything once." Commander Reeves studied him for a long moment. "You care about her. She's family. Even if caring about her means billions of humans might die?" The question hung in the air like an accusation. Marcus understood the stakes. Luna's knowledge and her mother's technology could be the difference between survival and extinction for the human race. But he also understood what it meant to be responsible for a traumatized child who had already been failed by the adults who were supposed to protect her. "There has to be another way," he said finally. "Such as?" "Luna's people are warriors. They didn't survive the Devourers by hiding. They survived by fighting and running when necessary. Let them teach us to do the same." "And the child?" "Stays with me. Where she's safe, where she's happy, and where her people can find her if they need to." Commander Reeves was quiet for several minutes, studying the galactic display. Finally, she sighed and turned back to Marcus. "The Admiralty won't like it. They want the alien child where they can study her, learn from her, use her if necessary. The Admiralty can go to hell." "Careful, Marcus. Technically, you're harboring an alien entity of unknown capabilities. I could have you arrested right now, but you won't." "No, I won't. Because I've read your file, and I know the kind of man you are. If you say this child is better off with you than in a government lab, I believe you. She paused. But I need something in return. Such as? The Etherian ships use biological technology that can interface directly with their pilots. Your ward has been modifying your ship's systems, hasn't she? Marcus nodded reluctantly. We need to understand how that works. Not to replicate it, but to coordinate with it. If we're going to fight alongside the Etherians, our ships need to be able to communicate with theirs. Luna would have to agree to help. Then ask her. Marcus returned to the Wanderer to find Luna pacing nervously in the main cabin. She launched herself at him the moment he came through the airlock, all four arms wrapping around him in a fierce hug. I was worried, she said into his shoulder. Your emotions felt heavy. We need to talk. Marcus explained what Commander Reeves had told him: the Devourer attacks, the offer of alliance, and the request for Luna's help. She listened without interrupting, her shadow markings flickering as she processed the information. My people want to fight alongside humans? She asked when he finished. It seems so, but only if you're safe. And the human military wants to study me. Some of them do. But not Commander Reeves. She just wants your help with ship integration. Luna was quiet for a long moment, her black eyes distant as she considered the implications. Finally, she looked up at Marcus with an expression far too serious for her apparent age. Protector Marcus, I must tell you something about my people. We are not just survivors of the Devourer War. We are its cause. Marcus felt cold dread settle in his stomach. What do you mean? The Devourers were not always machines. Long ago, they were a species like any other. They came to the Etherian collective seeking help, their star was dying, and they needed new technology to save their people. Luna's shadow markings dimmed as she continued. My people were generous. As always, we shared our biotechnology, showed them how to create living ships that could sustain themselves in space indefinitely. We thought we were saving them, but something went wrong. The biotechnology merged with their cybernetic implants in ways we did not expect. They became something new, part machine, part living organism, driven by an endless hunger to grow and consume. The process spread through their entire population in a matter of months. Marcus sank into a chair, the full horror of what she was describing becoming clear. The Etherians accidentally created the Devourers. Yes, and now they have found humans. If they learn to integrate your technology the way they did ours. Luna's voice trailed off, but the implication was clear. They'll become even worse. My people feel responsible for what happened. That is why Mother offered to help your species. We must stop the Devourers before they do to humans what they did to themselves. Marcus rubbed his temples, feeling the weight of galactic consequences settling on his shoulders. A simple rescue mission had somehow turned into the key to humanity's survival. What do you want to do? He asked. I want to help, but not from a laboratory or a military base. I want to fight beside you, as we have been doing. My ship modifications can be adapted for your military vessels, and I can teach your pilots to interface with Etherian biotechnology safely. That's dangerous. If the Devourers find out you're helping coordinate the resistance, then they will target me specifically. Yes, I understand this. But Protector Marcus, I am the last heir of the Etherian collective. My bloodline carries the genetic memories of 6 extinct worlds. If I do not use that knowledge to stop the Devourers, then everyone who died to preserve it died for nothing. Marcus looked at this alien child, this princess, this repository of an entire civilization's knowledge, and saw not just Luna's determination, but the weight of responsibility that came with being the last of her kind. All right, he said finally. We'll do it your way. But we do it together. And Luna's smile could have powered a small star. The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. Commander Reeves was initially skeptical of letting Luna remain on a civilian vessel during wartime, but Luna's demonstration of her ship modification capabilities quickly changed her mind. Watching a 12-year-old alien interface directly with military-grade computers and improve their efficiency by 30% was impressive, even by colonial defense standards. They established a secure communication network between the Wanderer, the Colonial Defense Force, and the hidden Etherian fleet. Luna served as the primary translator. Her unique position as both an Etherian princess and Marcus's ward making her the perfect intermediary between the two species. The plan they developed was ambitious and terrifying in equal measure. Human ships would serve as mobile platforms for Etherian biotechnology, creating hybrid vessels that combined the best of both civilizations. Luna would coordinate the integration process while Marcus served as her guardian and liaison to the human command structure. It wasn't the quiet life Marcus had imagined when he first found Luna dying in the Vega Nebula. But as he watched her work, her 4 hands flying across multiple interfaces while she simultaneously translated between human tactical doctrine and Etherian strategic philosophy, he realized this was what she was meant to do. She wasn't just the last Etherian. She was the bridge between two species, the living symbol of what they could accomplish together. As the Wanderer prepared to depart New Shanghai Station with a colonial defense escort, Marcus felt a familiar mix of anxiety and anticipation. They were heading into unknown territory, facing an enemy that had already destroyed one galactic civilization. But they weren't facing it alone. Luna stood beside him on the bridge, her shadow markings bright with excitement and determination. Behind them, a fleet of human and Etherian vessels moved in perfect coordination, their biomechanical systems singing in harmonious frequencies that only she could hear. "Are you ready for this?" Marcus asked. "I was born ready for this," Luna replied, her careful English now flavored with confidence that hadn't been there months ago. "My people spent 3 years learning to fight the Devourers. Now we teach humans to do the same, but better. And if we can't stop them?" Luna's expression became serious, and for a moment Marcus could see the genetic memories of ancient Etherian warriors looking out through her young eyes. "Then we make them pay so dearly for their victory that they never recover, and we ensure that somewhere, somehow, life continues." As the combined fleet jumped to hyperspace, heading toward their first engagement with the Devourer forces, Marcus reflected on how much his life had changed since that day in the Vega Nebula. He'd thought he was just saving one lost child. Instead, he'd found himself at the center of the greatest alliance in galactic history. The Devourers were coming. But this time, they would face not just scattered survivors fleeing in terror, but a unified force of two species working together with a shared determination to survive. And at the heart of it all was Luna, the starving alien child, who had grown into something far greater than any of them had imagined possible. Marcus smiled grimly as the stars streaked past the viewport. The real war was about to begin. Marcus would never forget the sight of Devourer ships emerging from hyperspace like a plague of metal locusts. They moved with mechanical precision, their angular hulls gleaming with an oily darkness that seemed to absorb light itself. Each vessel was the size of a city, bristling with weapons that could crack planets and engines that burned with the stolen energy of consumed worlds. Against them stood the combined fleet of humanity, and the Etherian survivors, 60 human ships hastily retrofitted with biotechnology. 12 ancient Etherian vessels that looked like living things growing among the stars, and, at the center of it all, the Wanderer serving as the coordination hub for the entire operation. "Contact in 30 seconds, Luna announced from her position at the integrated command console. Her voice was steady despite her youth, carrying the authority of someone who had been born to command fleets among the stars. "All ships report biointegration at optimal levels." Marcus watched the tactical display as human and Etherian vessels moved in perfect harmony, their combined technologies creating something greater than the sum of their parts. Ships that had been built for different philosophies of warfare now fought as one, guided by Luna's ability to translate between human tactical thinking and Etherian strategic instincts. "Enemy ships are charging weapons," reported Captain Torres from the lead human destroyer, "targeting our larger vessels." "Etherian Protocol 7, Luna responded immediately. "All ships scatter on my mark. Confusion pattern Delta." The fleet exploded outward like a flowering star, each ship following a seemingly chaotic trajectory that would confuse Devourer targeting systems. It was an Etherian tactic that no human commander would have thought to use, requiring a level of coordination that their technology couldn't normally achieve. But with Luna linking their systems through bio-neural interfaces, the impossible became routine. The Devourers opened fire, their weapons painting space with beams of coherent energy that could melt asteroids. But they were targeting where the Alliance ships had been, not where they were going. By the time the weapons reached their intended positions, Empty space absorbed the fury meant for living crews. Human pattern Alpha, Luna called out. Concentrated firepower on the lead vessel. Now it was humanity's turn to show what they brought to the Alliance. Human ships might not have been as advanced as Etherian biocraft, but they had been built for one purpose: to fight and win against impossible odds. Their weapons were brutal and efficient, designed by a species that had learned warfare from predators and prey alike. The combined firepower of 30 human warships struck the lead Devourer vessel simultaneously. For a moment, its shields held against the assault. Then they collapsed, and the ship's hull began to buckle under the continued bombardment. But Marcus knew this was just the beginning. The Devourers adapted quickly, and their losses only made them more dangerous. Second wave incoming, Luna announced. Twice as many ships, different configuration. They're learning our patterns. Can we adjust? Marcus asked. Already on it, Luna replied, her 4 hands dancing across multiple interfaces. Sending new coordination protocols to all ships. But, Protector Marcus, what is it? The Devourers are specifically targeting the Wanderer. They know I'm here. Marcus felt ice form in his stomach as he realized the implications. If the Devourers captured Luna, they wouldn't just gain access to Etherian technology. They would have the genetic key to finding and destroying every remaining Etherian survivor in the galaxy. We run, he said immediately. No. Luna's voice carried a firmness that reminded Marcus eerily of her mother. If I run, the coordination network collapses. The fleet will be destroyed. Luna, Protector Marcus, I am not just the last Etherian. I am the bridge between our peoples. If I abandon my post now, both species will fall to the Devourers. Marcus wanted to argue, to insist that her safety was more important than any tactical advantage. But looking at her face, at the determination burning in those huge black eyes, he realized that Luna was no longer the frightened child he'd rescued from a dying ship. She had grown into something far greater, a leader worthy of the ancient bloodline she carried. Then we fight, he said. The second battle was unlike anything in human military doctrine. Devourer ships moved with predatory intelligence, adapting to each tactic almost as soon as it was employed. They focused their fire on the bio-integrated ships, trying to sever the neural links that allowed the two species to coordinate their efforts. But Luna adapted too, drawing on genetic memories that spanned millions of years of Etherian warfare. She guided the fleet through maneuvers that defied conventional understanding of space combat, using the living nature of Etherian ships to create tactics that no purely mechanical intelligence could predict. Human ships would suddenly bloom with bio-neural tendrils, linking directly with their Etherian counterparts to share sensor data and targeting information in real time. Etherian vessels would phase partially out of normal space, becoming ghost ships that could pass through Devourer fire only to rematerialize with weapons blazing. For 3 hours, the battle raged across an entire star system. Ships burned and died on both sides, but for every Alliance vessel lost, 2 Devourer craft were destroyed. It was a ratio that humanity and the Etherians could sustain, but Marcus knew it wouldn't last. The Devourers were calling for reinforcements. Long-range sensors detect multiple hyperspace signatures, reported Commander Reeves from her flagship. Estimate 40 additional Devourer vessels incoming. Luna's shadow markings flickered with exhaustion, but her voice remained steady. Mother's fleet is also moving to intercept, but they're still 20 minutes out. 20 minutes. Marcus did the math and felt despair settle into his bones. The current battle had cost them nearly half their ships, and Luna was pushing the bio-integration systems beyond their safe limits. They couldn't hold against 40 fresh Devourer vessels, not even with Etherian reinforcements coming. There's another option, Luna said quietly. Her voice meant only for Marcus. But you won't like it. Tell me. I can use my genetic patterns to create a resonance cascade in the bio-neural network. It would amplify our coordination capabilities by a factor of 10, allowing perfect synchronization between every ship in the fleet. Marcus didn't like the sound of that. What's the catch? The process would require me to interface directly with every biosystem simultaneously. The neural strain. Luna paused. her young face suddenly looking far older than her apparent years. "Protector Marcus, I might not survive it." "No, absolutely not. It's the only way to save both our species. Luna, your mother will kill me if I let anything happen to you. Then she'll destroy every human world in the galaxy out of grief. She'll understand. This is what I was born for, to be the bridge between our peoples when they need it most." Before Marcus could argue further, the Devourer reinforcements arrived in a flash of twisted hyperspace. 40 new ships, each one larger and more heavily armed than anything they'd faced so far. At their head was a vessel that made Marcus's blood run cold, a biomechanical hybrid that looked disturbingly familiar. "Is that?" he began. "Yes," Luna whispered. "They've learned to integrate Etherean technology with their own systems. That ship is part Devourer, part Etherean biocraft. They're evolving." The hybrid ship opened communications on all frequencies, its voice a horrible fusion of mechanical precision and organic malevolence. "Etherian child," it said, the words carrying harmonics that made Marcus's teeth ache. "We know you are there. We can taste your genetic patterns in the bio-neural network. Surrender yourself, and we will grant your human protectors a quick death." Luna's response came not in words, but in action. Her hands slammed down on the bio-interface, and suddenly every ship in the Alliance fleet blazed with golden light as she forced a connection between them all. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Human pilots suddenly found themselves thinking with Etherean instincts, while Etherean navigators gained access to human tactical databases spanning thousands of years of warfare. The fleet moved as one organism, every ship knowing instinctively where every other ship would be at any given moment. But Marcus could see the cost. Luna's shadow markings were burning so brightly they hurt to look at, and her young face was twisted with pain as she channeled more psychic energy than any Etherean her age should attempt. "Luna, you have to stop," he pleaded. "This will kill you." "Not yet," she gasped between rapid breaths. "Can hold. A little longer. Long enough." The hybrid tactics Luna had unleashed were devastating. Human ships appeared and disappeared like ghosts, using Etherean phase shift technology to strike at Devourer vessels from impossible angles. Etherean biocraft channeled human weapons designs, creating organic cannons that fired projectiles of living energy. Most impressive of all was the way the two species' different approaches to warfare complemented each other. Humans brought aggression and adaptability, while Ethereans provided wisdom and long-term strategic thinking. Together, they created a fighting force that the Devourers had never encountered. The tide of battle shifted rapidly in favor of the Alliance. Devourer ships, designed to fight predictable enemies, found themselves facing tactics that shouldn't have been possible. Their adaptation algorithms couldn't keep up with the creative fusion of human and Etherean military doctrine. But Luna was dying. Marcus could see it in the way her hands trembled on the bio-interface, in the way her breathing became increasingly labored. The neural strain of coordinating the entire fleet was burning through her life force like acid through metal. "Luna, please," he begged. "You've done enough. Let the fleet fight without the link." "Can't," she whispered. "If I drop the connection now, the Devourers will adapt to our separated tactics. Need to finish this." That's when salvation arrived in the form of the most terrifying being Marcus had ever encountered. Luna's mother materialized on the bridge of the Wanderer without warning, her living armor flowing around her like liquid mercury, and her forearms crackling with enough energy to power a small star. She took in the situation at a glance, her daughter burning herself out to save two species, the human who had sworn to protect her, standing helplessly by. "Luna," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that resonated through every biosystem on the ship. "Release the network. Now." "Mother, I can't. If I stop, you will not stop. You will transfer the burden to those who can bear it." With that, Luna's mother placed her hands on her daughter's shoulders and suddenly the bio-neural network expanded again. But this time, Luna wasn't carrying the load alone. Through the quantum communication systems that linked all Etherean survivors, every member of her species in the galaxy suddenly joined the network. The effect was like watching a dim candle suddenly become a supernova. The Alliance fleet began moving with coordination that transcended anything possible with conventional technology. Every ship became an extension of a vast collective consciousness, guided by the combined wisdom of the last survivors of the galaxy's oldest civilization. The Devourers never had a chance. Faced with tactics that incorporated the military knowledge of dozens of extinct species, their adaptation algorithms overloaded and crashed. Ships that had seemed invincible moments before became sitting targets for weapons that struck from dimensions they couldn't even detect. In 15 minutes, the entire Devourer force was destroyed, but the victory came with a price. When the bio-neural network finally shut down, Luna collapsed into her mother's arms, her shadow markings dim and her breathing shallow. "Is she?" Marcus began. "She will live," Luna's mother said, though her voice carried notes of concern. "But she has exceeded the safe limits of neural integration. She will need time to recover." How much time? Years, perhaps. The human concept of growing up applies to Etherian neural development as well. She pushed herself to adult levels of psychic integration before her mind was ready. Marcus felt a mix of relief and guilt. Luna would survive, but she had sacrificed her childhood to save their species. The weight of that sacrifice would stay with him forever. Over the following weeks, as Luna recovered aboard her mother's ship, the true scope of what they had accomplished became clear. The bio-neural network had done more than just coordinate one battle. It had created a permanent link between human and Etherian technology that would revolutionize both civilizations. Human ships could now access Etherian dimensional travel, while Etherian vessels gained access to human weapons technology that could actually damage Devourer craft. More importantly, the two species had learned to work together as partners, rather than separate entities pursuing individual survival. The war against the Devourers continued, but now it was a war that the galaxy could win. Marcus stood on the observation deck of Luna's mother's ship, watching as human and Etherian vessels worked together to establish a new defensive perimeter around the core worlds. It was a sight that would have been unimaginable just a year ago. The proud humans, accepting guidance from alien partners, the ancient Etherians sharing their most precious secrets with a younger species. Protector Marcus. He turned to find Luna approaching, her steps still somewhat unsteady but her shadow markings bright with returning health. She had grown during her recovery, not just physically but in ways that were harder to define. The frightened child he'd rescued was gone, replaced by someone who carried herself with quiet dignity and ancient wisdom. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Different," she said simply. "The neural integration changed me. I can still access the collective memories of my people. But now, I also carry human thought patterns. I am truly a bridge between our species now. Do you regret it?" Luna considered the question seriously before answering. "No. Everything I lost for a purpose. My childhood, my innocence, even parts of my purely Etherian identity, they were all sacrificed to create something new. Something better." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the combined fleets patrol the space between stars. Finally, Luna spoke again. "Mother wants to offer you a formal position as my permanent guardian. With full Etherian diplomatic status and access to our most advanced medical technology. That's quite an honor. You would live as long as I do, several thousand years by your standards. You would see the galaxy rebuilt. Watch new civilizations rise from the ashes of this war." Marcus thought about it. Immortality, or something close to it. The chance to explore wonders beyond human imagination. A life among the stars with the most advanced species in the galaxy. "What do you want?" he asked. "I want my protector Marcus to stay with me," Luna said simply. "But I also want him to choose freely. You have given me so much already. I will not trap you with obligation." Marcus looked down at this alien child who had become so much more than he ever could have imagined. She was right, she wasn't the same frightened refugee he'd found dying in the Vega Nebula. She had grown into something magnificent. A leader. A bridge builder. A symbol of hope for two species learning to survive together. But in her eyes, he could still see traces of the little girl who had called him Protector Marcus and drawn pictures of alien flowers. That child, still needed him, even if she was too proud to say so. "Where you go, I go," Marcus said. "That's what family means." Luna's smile could have powered entire star systems. As they stood together watching the stars, Marcus reflected on the strange turns his life had taken. A year ago, he'd been a lonely cargo hauler, with nothing but his ship and his memories. A simple act of kindness feeding a starving child had led to this. Becoming the guardian of an alien princess, the catalyst for the greatest alliance in galactic history, and ultimately, the human who helped save both their species from extinction. The Devourers were still out there, still dangerous, still consuming worlds on the galaxy's edge. But they no longer faced scattered survivors, fleeing in terror. Now they faced a united force of species that had learned to combine their strengths and cover each other's weaknesses. And at the heart of that alliance was Luna, the bridge between worlds, the child who had grown into something far greater than the sum of her parts. Marcus smiled as he watched a human patrol ship dock with an Etherian biovessel, their crews working together with the easy familiarity of old friends. This wasn't the peaceful retirement he'd once imagined, but it was something better. It was purpose. It was family. It was home. Somewhere in the depths of space, an alien mother watched over them both, ready to unleash the full fury of her people's power on anyone who threatened her daughter's chosen family. But for now, there was peace among the stars, and the promise of wonders yet to come. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers, but they would face them together, the burned-out cargo hauler, the alien princess, and all the countless beings who had learned that sometimes the greatest strength comes not from standing alone, but from standing together. As the Wanderer prepared for its next mission, now upgraded with biotechnology that made it one of the most advanced ships in the galaxy, Marcus felt the familiar thrill of adventure calling. There were new worlds to explore, new species to contact, new wonders to discover, and Luna would be beside him for all of it, his ward and partner in the greatest adventure of all, building a future where different species could work together to face whatever challenges the universe might bring. The little girl he'd fed when she was starving had fed him something in return, a purpose that would last for thousands of years, and a family that transcended the boundaries of species or biology. It was, Marcus thought as the stars streaked past the viewport, the best trade he'd ever made.